Why hello there friends, here we are with the long-awaited Mortal Shell lore video, which I promised you about 4 weeks ago that I would make, and here we are finally, now that I've found all the inscriptions and etchings in this game. Now I will be reading these etchings and inscriptions out loud to you in a storytelling voice, so that the only thing that you have to do is just listen, enjoy. The hungriest of the unborn burns with desire. He hangs seething as those below bow low in supplication. He demands sacrifice, but his hunger, it near ends. Those within the obsidian walls seek oblivion, their worship turbulent and reactive. They predict the birth of their savior, but they say he has already been born. She rests within the tomb, the most vulnerable of the unborn. His protection is all he has left to offer. A loyal husk, he prays for her birth, refusing to rest no matter how tiresome his watch. The old prisoner sits contentedly atop his perch, awaiting the newest. The unborn must be greeted with gifts, but gifts they will bestow, in return for unwavering loyalty. The first martyr gave neither blood nor body. No, he gave up so much more to preserve our faith. He gave his living memory, all that he knew, all that he glimpsed, sealed within ice. As it falls, open your mouth and harden your heart. Receive his gift. Remember what came before. The first vision came upon me like a waking dream. Thrust into a vast chamber, I beheld a maiden crowned with winterglass. Her hand fell upon my throat and I shivered. Trembling, I returned to the present, but a grasp remained an icy collar upon my neck, licking us forevermore. Kneel before the Immaculate. Place your palm upon the devilish doctrine. Surrender your pride, your vanity, or as you call it, your will. This is the first sin. Let go. Allow her eternal wisdom, untouched and unspoiled, guide you. Your spirit will not falter, if it is hers to command. The reward for loyalty is servitude. Thus the Twiceborn requires no pledges. They came here searching for answers, like you do now, but you will find nothing but silence and fury. Throw yourself into the chasm. Let the void take you and remake you. You will be reborn, a child of the myriad, a sister or brother. We no longer remember our name. We are a multitude, emptied and repoured into a human-like vessel, a comforting mirage. Your eyes refuse to acknowledge our boundless form, but neither time or shape can confine us. With each sacrament, we deepen our doubts. Refuse the comfort of conviction, brothers. Close your eyes to the seduction of reason. There's no comprehending our inscrutable gods. We barely know ourselves. Tell me, what fool will believe he could comprehend the revered? A spider climbs carefully along a wet blade of grass. The torments of transition enlighten with new perspectives for those who are open. A stinger pierces the flesh of an unloved keeper. A tube swells and constricts. A calmness brings with it nothing but hope of forestalling any more pain. The stone breathes, it lives. Yes, look close. The obsidian writhes and skirms. It is not a seamless stone, but a conflux of worms, black as oil, threaded together in a great wiggling mass. MCV, 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 and so on. Birds nesting inside a child's crumbling skull. 2 rows of teeth become one. Elusive shapes dance endlessly in retinus. A hard-shelled parasite eats the kernel of a rose and takes its place. Unbearable pain drags those who feel it into darkness. Polished porcelain bowls defiled with specks of blood and bile. A worm split asunder becomes something new. Stricken with all the ills that consumed his skin, Imrod, last of the indecipherable, dragged himself before the immolation. He witnessed, as you will one day, the consecrated living flame, always becoming, always feeding, as its form flakes away in torrents of ash. Why must great indecipherable die, while beggars and bandits and indecipherable flourish? The body is little more than kindling that our spirits burn through. Inflame your passions and forget your reluctance for ambition, for sacrifice. No more cuddling the infirm, no more sheltering the ill. Indecipherable the weak. Purify the flesh, leave nothing but ashes. You are damned at birth, promised death. This is the frailty of our flesh, but it is a falsehood. The gift of immortality lies within reach, but you must be willing to take indecipherable. By force if you must, even if you suffer without end. There is no indecipherable without sacrifice, but there is ecstasy in agony. Their madness is not a melody, but a willful subjugation. They've offered up their voices, their sanity, preferring the silence of stone. A mirror of obsidian reflects only shadows. They dart and dive past glinting mantles. See how they slip away? Sliding out of the corner of your eyes? They escape grasping hands. They grow opaque, solid and brittle like obsidian. Still like statues, they loom without purpose. A reminder of past splendor, rendered into a tragic substitute. What is the difference between following and pursuing? These wraiths haunt his steps, as I do. A beast chasing at its own tail in the grand cosmic scheme. I tasted the promise of the future, a world encompassed by the boundless, seamless form entangled. It's impossible to ascertain where one ends and the other begins. The only message that passes between them is scrawled in stone, not unlike my own etchings. Do they fear the ephemeral word decaying upon their lips? And what of my kin? Are you reading this, dear brother? Do you still remember how we played at scholarship? Simpler times. When our quandaries were mere dramatics, dressed up as theory. Gritza is the bestest bandit baron. You have to raise the last seedling alone. I am truly sorry, beloved. I always meant to return, but I'm afraid the false truths have spread far beyond our reach. To stop them would be akin to killing the host, to kill the parasite. If you are a fine gentleman, please consider floss for all furnishings and accoutrement. It's rather perilous in these uncivilized lands. His new shop lies atop their rustic tower. These creatures, twisted and malformed, they're almost unrecognizable. Whatever gifts Hayden has lavished them with were wasted. They strayed so far from the path, they're lost in the wilderness of their own making. They seek to fill the draught of meaning in this world with prayers and proclamations. Nothing could be further from the truth. So we shall bring records to their prophetic rites and rituals, their pitiful routines. Seek us beneath the grand obelisks and find there is no one true purpose. To each their own. They call themselves brothers and sisters, but to us they are little more than a flock of sheep. Drooling and wide-eyed, they lap up their master's sermons like mother's soup. Their dreams are not their own, they sacrifice all for naught. Their messiah planted his seeds and left. They seek a utopia which cannot exist. Charmed and forgotten, choking on the nectar of false gods. How high and mighty will they be when they consume this poison? They sully their lips with the false wine. It lulls their needs like a lover's caress. But what of their lives? What of their former devotions? Left behind like a sack with a hole. Forgotten like the tar-addled night before. Liquid filth is their sacrament and will be their downfall. It's that which we've seen and that which we shall sow. We have followed in his steps the Dark One. We traced his winding, inscrutable logic. Listened for the whispers he must have heard. They've moved into temples. Tall walled monuments erected by devoted hands. They pray to truths we know to be false. We've resisted the whispers, rendered them inert. Let any who read this deny their gifts, for the promise of a life of ecstasy is a fallacy. Life is suffering, obligation and truth. Seek us out and we will reveal this to you. My loot is life. I've been a man of simple pedigree, traveling the world, sharing fancy notes for a cup of soup. But I've no one to leave my legacy. As it all slips away, it's my own regret. I'll just take another bit of tar and... Goodbye, cruel world. Man. And so you have now listened to the hidden lore of this wicked world. I hope you enjoyed Mortal Shell as much as I did. It seriously was a great game with a beautiful world, lots of awesome fighting, cool bosses, and then the end game boss, which was the Dark Father all along, who is now residing in this tower and should be residing in that tower once and for all. Like we always have with Mortal Shell, we sit down, grab our loot, play the correct music, goodbye.